Okay, so finishing off this section of the actual pre-creative part of it and just discussing how it's important to get things in your mind set up and correct and everything, we're going to conclude by doing what's called filling in. Basically this is after the geometric shapes. You want to be able to know how to convert all this into a more fluid looking image and everything. And this is basically the geometric shapes I've set up for what I did in the past, which was Jeff Bridges. I think I showed you that in one of the other videos. And so what you need to do then is to obviously fill in the rest of the actual form. That's basically what we're talking about, to get the idea of how it's going to look as an actual starting point for the caricature. Now what I'm going to do is just basically make this a little bit lighter so I can draw on top of it and show you what I mean by filling in. Now for instance, you don't want a sharp edge to this geometric shape, okay, so what I need to do is flow this around and give it a kind of a nice curve. And this is where basically it comes into the chin as well. The chin basically comes here, so what I need to do here is stop here, have the chin come out, like so. Try to make it as symmetrical as possible. Again, do the same the other side, make it curve in, like so, and you can see automatically it just starts becoming a little bit more fresh and organic rather than just these nasty shapes that, you know, don't give any kind of life to them. Okay, and then on top of this we need to then build in certain aspects of his features, like his nose. Again, we're going to, because of the reason why we're going to do his mouth a lot wider is because of the shape of his face, which we're going to talk about when we actually look at the principles of caricaturing. But just for now I'm just going to fill in these details so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, and again I've drawn his eye line roughly where it is. Okay, so what we need to do there is just literally add his eyes. There's these little features as well, like this part here, which is not part of a geometric shape, okay, which needs to be considered, else it doesn't make the actual caricature look very good. Again here, the eyebrows and so forth. I won't do all of it because it's just a kind of a simple showing of how, you know, you need to then go through the whole thing and make it look a little bit nicer than what it was, which is just loads of shapes. For instance, the hair. Now you've got to also remember you've got to caricaturize the hair, so you have to learn how to basically make something look a little bit more cartoony than it actually does on the photograph. And this is a simple principle of animation. It's called exaggeration. So you just take points of it and actually pull it out to the point where you think it can't go any further, and that's called exaggeration, like so. Okay, just do that down there. He's got his hair coming out like this. Also, this is his neck. You've got to give it a nicer curve instead of straight lines again, like so. Give him a little Adam's apple, like so. And then here you got to figure out how to make it so it actually curves out, because you don't actually have the shape of the actual clothing come from that point. This is where the neck actually joins, but then there's a bit where your muscles jump in, and so you got to basically allow for that as well. Okay, it's all to do knowing anatomy. This is the important thing. If you know anatomy very well, you know how the body works, and so you can adjust and adapt for it, like so. Okay, obviously he's got a lot, the mouth, as I said before, there usually is a typical standard practice for mouths in reality. Basically, if you follow your eyes half all the way down there, down there, that's where your mouth does, because we're doing a caricature, it's not basically that. You can actually extend it further past that point, like so. So it makes it a little bit more extreme, as I said. This is that thing I keep saying about exaggeration, extremities. Okay. So this will be the starting point of how I would paint up Jeff Bridges as the dude from The Big Lebowski. Let's pull those around there. Give his lips slightly lopsided. This is a characteristic you have to look for in things, something that makes it a little quirky, so it gives a little slight variation on the actual normal, because not everybody's normal. You have to try to find the oddities that make them less normal. And that's what makes them a caricature, basically. So, now, you're wondering how I can do this without any referencing, probably, but I have got a picture on another monitor looking at it. So don't worry, I'm not cheating in any sense, really. I'm actually just drawing from reference like you would anyway. So just going to put this one in. So, and this is how I basically build up the filling in aspects of the caricature. Okay, so you would then move on to the next part, which would be actually then to paint this. You may want to adjust it slightly. I always tend to adjust them. I basically put them in Photoshop, and then I use the tools, for instance, like this one. If I want to change the shape of the nose or the position of it, I would just select the nose like so. And you could either do distort, which means you could then either make it bigger at the bottom and thin at the top, or you could use the warp tool, push it in at certain points and pull it out at certain points. And this just helps you then define how you think the nose should be. It's quite a useful tool using Photoshop, because you can't, well, it's just like rubbing out and starting again, I suppose, but in a sense you can keep the original lines and work with them. Like, for instance, you may think that these eyes need to be a bit closer together, so you move them a bit closer together. So, okay, now I think you'll agree that looks a little bit like Jeff Bridges. Okay, so what we're going to do is then move on to teach you and show you how to do all the principles of caricaturing, and we will then start slowly building up a caricature. Remember, we started off with the Charlie Chaplin one, so I'm going to show you how to do all the principles based on that one, and we will end up with a Charlie Chaplin. Okay, now if you want to participate in this sections, what I'd like you to do, because this is the end of the second section, is to find a famous person if you want to, and basically draw it as a set of geometric shapes like I've showed you, and then do some filling in by penciling over it or digitally penciling over it, and just basically, if you want to then scan it in and then send it to me via Patreon, you can do, and I will criticise it or judge it and see if you've done a good job or not. Okay, so next time we're going to be talking about the principles of caricaturization.